Adamley.
Here.
Adamowski. Adamson.
Here.
Adler.
Here.
Anderson. Anderson.
Here.
Bueller. 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 Bueller.
He's sick. My best friend's sister's boyfriend's brother's girlfriend heard from this guy who knows this kid is going with the girl who saw Ferris pass out at 31 Flavors last night. I guess it's pretty serious.
Thank you, Simone.
No problem whatsoever.
Fry.
Ladies and gentlemen, we please ask you to take your seats. We're going to begin shortly.
All righty. So before we get the next part of the show going, I just want to remind everyone that if you would like to take some pictures and create and contribute your images to stock images for the vitiligo community, please find Lana over here. She'll generally be in that area, but if you want to take some photos of you, of your friends together, that's okay. And you don't have to have vitiligo to also take some pictures if you want just some professional shots taken as well. So just look for Lana and she will do that. And interestingly, someone with vitiligo reached out to me about 5 minutes ago, and she was really excited to tell her story. And we also have videographers here who can actually record your story and share it for you, and that was the ask. And so if you would like to tell your story as someone living with vitiligo, someone supporting vitiligo, champion vitiligo, feel free to reach out, and you can contact Richard over there. Richard, can you put up your hand, please? And he will connect you to our video team. So with that, welcome back. This next session brings together leading voices in vitiligo care and one of Canada's most preeminent voices in vitiligo. Treatment is never one size fits all, and our panel will walk us through the current landscape and what it means for patients. Please welcome Dr. Geeta Yadav, dermatologist and founder of Facet Dermatology. Dr. Albert Chan, clinical psychologist and founder of Paxwood Family Therapy. And Omar Sharife, president and co-founder of Vitiligo Voices Canada, model and content creator. And I have the pleasure of moderating this panel myself.
Did you want this spot?
No, that's fine. That's fine. It's all good. So let's try to have some fun with it. So if you don't like a question, skip it. But let's feel free to contradict each other. It's okay to disagree. All right. So, but I will start it off for Dr. Yadav. Vitiligo treatment has come a long way, but I wonder, how do you decide which therapies, topical, light-based, or systemic, that are appropriate for a given patient?
I think the most important thing is what the patient's goals are. And I think that governs a lot of how we should always practice medicine, and not just in vitiligo. And so what is important, I think, for clinicians to do is to stay on top of what's new and what's developing and what's coming up in the pipeline, because we want to be able to give our patients all the options that are available, and for them to understand the chances of success, the risks versus the benefits, and their own appetite for treatment. You know, not everybody is looking to solve everything everywhere. Some people are very concerned about vitiligo appearing on specific parts of the body. And so I really do think that it's about trying to understand the goals of the patient. And I think there's this entire layer of your background skin color, your background ethnicity, your background culture, your background, like there's so much that comes into those decisions. And so just trying to understand that, I think, is a governing principle for approaching vitiligo treatment.
Thank you, that's awesome. Omar, you continue to have a long journey with vitiligo. How have those treatments been for you? And what do you think the medical community should know about those treatments and how they play a role in your life?
Okay, so my medical journey was interesting, I guess. I don't believe I got bedside manner, if that's the way to put it. When I originally got diagnosed, I think the only option was you need to treat it. So I tried everything from the steroid creams to the light treatments, and I think if you saw the TED Talk, you would know that, you know, I went through the light treatment that essentially burnt and blistered my skin. And I guess that worked, but I continued to do light treatment for many years. For me, luckily, I guess, I don't know if it was lucky or not, but my vitiligo progressed slowly. So it was kind of every year I would get a little bit more. But that created my own issues, mental health-wise, and different issues in terms of how I hit it or how I showed up in the world every year. So I have an odd relationship with medication or with treating it, because I've come to a point where I don't want to go through that journey again. I don't know if there was a medication right now. I know that obviously Insight is in the audience, but I don't know if there's a medication that I would take right now. And even if there was a medication that said, okay, we'll take it away, I've already been through this journey of changing my identity to who I am now. What would it be like going back?
You know, and you know, I think we heard that a similar story with Lee earlier, because a big part of your identity now is you know, vitiligo is a part of you. And I'm just curious, and I don't know how to ask this, and I think that's, think about how to be consistent with our messaging here. But if you were able to actually repigment, is that something you would actually want to do? I'm just curious.
I don't know the answer to that. Honestly, I don't.
No, that's a good, honest answer.
I think also because the journey, you know, it's like, it's not a binary outcome. Like what you have to transition through to get to that may be unpleasant or long or difficult.
I think the way people, for me, I guess in my journey as well, what you see on my face wasn't here 6 years ago. So I went through that long journey of being able to kind of hide my hands, hide other parts of my body, but when it happened on my face, that was a whole different other identity journey. And it also changed the way that people interacted with me, or that I could noticeably tell that people interacted with me one way when I didn't have it and interact with me in a different way now that I have it. So again, going back to previous, I don't know what that would feel like in terms of a journey.
Just personally, I think it's beautiful. I really do. And I think you're seeing this a lot in pop culture, I think, right? It's in video games, it's in a lot of advertising. But I actually think vitiligo is beautiful. I really do, and it creates character, but that's my personal opinion. For Dr. Chan, one thing we keep learning from the vitiligo community is that there's a very unique experience, and we're hearing that, for everyone. And I'm wondering how, as a clinician, do you navigate the mental health conversation at different parts of that journey? For example, would you approach someone recently diagnosed with vitiligo the same way as someone who has been living with it for decades?
Well, I'm old. I'm in the field for 35 years.
I can help you with that.
Yeah. I'm still learning. I really do not know. I mean, I have students, they ask me what is the quickest, fastest book to treat any person. I said, I don't know. I think the patient is on the driver's seat, and they will teach you what to do. When I start working, I mean, as a first generation immigrant, I graduated from McGill, and my professor said, you have an accent. Maybe you need to go and see a speech therapist. And that stuck with me. I mean, I have to have the courage to say, yeah, I'm a Chinese, I always have an accent, and this is part of me, and I'm not going to change. I think in many ways, working with any patient, working with vitiligo, there's some similarity there. I really do not know. It's a very humbling journey. And I think psychotherapy is self-empowerment, that the patient need to begin to speak up. That takes a lot of courage. It's not simple. It's not like, and then when they come to the office, it takes a lot of courage. Doesn't matter who they are, what they are, to expose yourself. And you're dealing with tension, fear, self-acceptance, and hopefully people would accept you without looking at you with a strange eyes. And then you get through all those. And how to get through all those is peace and bits and experience and courage and life. And also everyone do not exempt from mental health, whether you have vitiligo or not, whether you're born in a good, healthy, attached, good family or you don't. And whether your support network is knowing who you are and protecting you too much or encouraging you too much. I don't know. So if you ask me what kind of modality or how to work with people in the initial stage, I think there is some client-centered, humanistic way is you got to learn to listen. You need to be humble. The humbling journey can only exist and allow and appreciate your client can speak up so that they can hear your own voice. I mean, we are all children. I mean, do you have that capacity to voice up when you are young as a little boy and a little girl? It takes a lot of journey, particularly when you be stigmatized, when you be bullied, when you have depression, prior to everything. Plus now, you have this shocking fear, unknown. And then you begin your journey, and then you don't know.
That's very powerful. And I think a lot of people in the audience would probably wonder, when is, like, I think everyone, to a certain extent, goes through certain things at different levels of stress and of mental stress and doubt. When is the right time to raise up my hand and say, hey, I need some help?
I don't think there's a right time. The right time is when that happens. It could be right away because they may have that young stage. And I told my client, I mean, we don't have choice to born into any family. We just be there. And then you sometimes say, why my mom and dad have me? I mean, I don't choose them, and I stuck there. And I stuck with all the genetic problem. I don't know, they don't know. So there's all huge of chances, and then we need to find and have courage and simple said than done. I don't know. And when that happened, it happened. And then the medical field, as Omar talking about, and the bedside, and then a psychotherapist. I don't think a lot of psychotherapists, psychology know, including myself. Is can we becoming human? It's a journey collaboratively from that point onward.
I mean, you know, so I think it's really important to think about, you know, when do you raise your hand in different contexts? Because there is the very clear and large and well-established mental health impact that vitiligo has on patients. And then there's the raise your hand to seek and understand what treatment options are available to you, if that's what you want, or if that's what you just need to learn about. And I think that, you know, we were just at the Canadian Derm Association meeting in Halifax, and one of the things that frustrates me so much is how much I hear about the shortage of dermatologists. And it's like, you know, so for patients to self-select out of presenting to a dermatologist because they think, I can't find one, I'm not gonna, you know, or I had not a good experience with one, I think that's so disheartening, because until you have that patient in your office, you can't start that journey with them, whatever that journey may end up being. And we are at a place in medical research, in dermatologic research, where the innovation around vitiligo is changing year on year. I do clinical trials in my practice. We have clinical trials for vitiligo. We've now got an approved medication for vitiligo. That's never happened before. And not just in adults, but in 12 plus, and that we as derms are using off-label in children, because that is a whole other big piece to kind of consider, is the impact on children. And so I think what's super important is for patients, and it's very hard, but to raise their hand to say to their family doctor, I'd like to, you know, it's been a while, or I'd like to see another dermatologist. And I think now there's an opportunity with social media, with direct-to-consumer education, where people can kind of find the practitioner that might fit their vibe, and then be able to kind of ask them those questions. So I think both pieces are important. Raise your hand, and don't feel like that just because maybe things haven't changed, maybe things have changed, but the idea is that empowering yourself to know more is at least a great starting point and an opportunity.
Yes, I totally agree. I think it's raising hand is one thing, how the community really well educated to raise the awareness, not just physician, social worker, teachers, and it's just like when I started working with domestic violence in 1980s, nobody know anything until we come to a point and say that violence is ugly. The movement stop, then opening some door, and there's a lot of cases that would empower the patient to put up the hand. And that takes a lot of back and forth.
Sure. I was just going to add about this idea of raising your hand. Obviously, you raise your hand to go to the dermatologist to get assistance, but raise your hand for mental health, and you've still got the same long journey to wait. By the time we get to seeing a mental health professional, we're in a different position than we were in when we raised our hand. And vitiligo is a continuous journey. It's a day-to-day journey. Today I'm sitting up here and speaking out loud, but there's other days where I want to sit at home and hide away. And I'm certain that other people with vitiligo feel that as well, in that it's a different journey on a different day. It could be something that somebody says to you yesterday that affects your day today, but you raise your hand and nobody's there to listen to you or help you with your mental health journey. So when you're saying you don't know how to treat, I think even with people with vitiligo, sometimes we don't even know what we need.
So, you know, follow up with that, because you have a lot of experience with the community at large. How do people find the resources? And you're saying not everybody knows everything, right? So can you share some with us? And there's a lot of people watching online too. Like, how do we keep informed? Maybe it's Vitiligo Voices Canada, but can you tell us more about that, and how do people get the support that they need?
I think that's also just as difficult. You know, vitiligo is one of those conditions where there's lots of miracle medications, or people out there posing to have a miracle medication. So there's a lot of misinformation. And I think in the desperation for finding some sort of cure, people get led down different paths. So when there are reputable agencies or organizations that are offering support, sometimes they're not so certain whether they are reputable. And at the same time, I think it's only been the last couple years that we are seeing advocacy agencies consistently showing up. I know for myself, I've had vitiligo for over 20 years, and it was literally only 3 or 4 years ago that I was able to find an organization that I was able to reach out to and meet somebody else with vitiligo. So I think there's the idea of, one, raising your hand and being ready to speak to somebody, but also finding that person and finding that group that offers you what you need.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of chances when we do things. It's almost like, I think everybody, I mean, some of you have kids. It's almost like kid standing on the pedestal and say, catch me. I got to be ready to catch, but do I have the awareness to catch? If not, the kid will be lying on the floor, half dead. I'm willing to do it, but with someone going to catch appropriately, not just catch. And that working in my field for 35 years, I find that it's extremely difficult, even though I try. Language is very limited. English is not my first language. I would never be able to express like catching my patient. That takes quite a lot of collaborative and courage to work through it.
I didn't want to lose track of something you said, Dr. Yadav. You used the term off-label. I don't think everyone may know what that means.
So, I mean, and this brings up a provocative thought. So I challenge you all to kind of think about this if you were in my shoes. So as a dermatologist, I have all this training and this knowledge, and I always tell people I have 3,000 diseases and only 50 ways to treat them. And so everything I do in my practice has to be off-label. So let's say, and I'm gonna give Insight a little plug for a minute because it's a great case example. So I've got a drug. It is the only drug. It's called Opzelura, and it's approved for vitiligo, but it's approved in 12 plus. Now, if 11-and-a-half-year-old comes to see me, am I going to say, no, but you're not 12, so you can't have it? And the issue is I run into all kinds of barriers. I run into barriers where I can't get someone to pay for it because it's off-label. I need to convince the parents that it's safe, that, you know, in our clinical experience, there's no difference between 11-and-a-half and 12. But I have to overcome all these barriers to be able to even offer that option. And I think, unfortunately, this is sort of a bigger conversation about I think we've got a problem right now in healthcare, and I don't think COVID helped, where we've got a little bit of a loss of empathy that's happening in healthcare in all aspects of our profession. And so it's gotten very hard for somebody to take that extra time to kind of say, I'm going to twist myself into knots, possibly commit a bit of insurance fraud so that I can get you the medication that you need. And
this is live broadcast.
Thank you. Health Canada. But this is the truth of it. Like, my moral compass as a provider is to provide the best options for the patient in front of me. And those best options are not my ideas. They're based on, here's what the evidence is, here's what the options are, and what do they want. It's a collaboration. But the idea is I'm going to go to bat for what that patient wants. And so, anyways, it's sort of one of these challenges that I think you see on the other side of it. So off-label means just trying to get a medication into the hands of the person that needs it and why they need it. Another great example would be you have a patient who's pregnant. And in pregnancy, you can have very strange changes in your immune system. And it's really hard. I've got 3 kids. Any of you who have kids probably feel that way. Sometimes you're like, am I just a vessel or does my health matter? And so being able to address the needs of that person in front of you, whatever they might be. And so you might go off-label. You might say, well, we're going to try this. We don't have all the data on it, but let me tell you what I know mechanistically about how this drug works, how I think it's safe, or, when you try to navigate that path with the patient and what their end goals are. So that is, I think, the other side of the challenge is getting the newer treatments into the hands of people that want them.
Thank you. You're clearly very passionate about this and maybe have just admitted to fraud, but we won't go there. So this is a question to all of you. I want to start with Omar. We are all learning, if we didn't know already, that vitiligo is a lifelong thing. I'm curious, what do you think are the core tenets for a patient-centered? Actually, I think I have a problem with that term, patient-centered, because I don't think every person living with vitiligo is necessarily a patient. Is that fair? So, but as written is, what is the right person-centered approach, I think is better to treatment. What is the right approach to treatment? Not just in terms of clinical outcomes, but addressing lifestyle and identity.
I think that's as complicated as the question. But I think it's about listening. I think we were talking a little bit about, people coming with their own experience and journey. But I think we forget that some of these people are going to be quite angry. And anger is often dismissed and pushed away, but not understood. And I think that needs to be empathized with, I think, a little bit, and just listen to the experience of the person with vitiligo, because my experience is going to be different than, other people's who have vitiligo, depending on when they got it, who they grew up with, where they grew up. So I think it's just about listening.
Thank you. I think now it's time to go to Q&A. Do we have any questions, Richard?
We have actually several questions. The first one is, how has the understanding of vitiligo treatment evolved, and what changes do you see for vitiligo treatment to change in the next 5 to 10 years?
So I can take that. That sounds like a medical question. So our understanding has come quite a long way. We understand very specifically some of the inflammatory signals that are involved in triggering this autoimmune response. We also are seeing more and more literature being published on the comorbidities that are associated with it. I was just reading on my way in an article that was published looking at the impact of the association between vitiligo and sensorineural hearing loss and retinal damage. Because the idea is that we don't just have pigment cells on our skin, we have it in the back of our eyes, we have it in our ears, and it provides a function in terms of how these different organs operate. And so we're getting better and better at understanding the impact of the disease, the impact on melanocytes. We're understanding what is the immune pathway that's triggering the response to those melanocytes. And also, I think, creating more therapies that'll address those. And I'll give you an example. So we feel pretty good when we look at the trials. We've got Opzelura. They were looking at what we call non-segmental vitiligo. Segmental vitiligo, harder to treat, a bit of a different entity. So we're starting to parse it out. When you can start putting them into buckets, then you start getting therapies that can address those manifestations differently. So before we used to say, well, it's just psoriasis. But now we can say, oh, no, there's pustular psoriasis, there's plaque psoriasis, guttate psoriasis. So we give it different names, and that means that we can have therapies that are going to be better at those different manifestations. So I think the excitement is really real. There are many, many clinical trials that are in phase 3 development for vitiligo. So I think there's lots of hope and excitement to come.
The next question is, how do you support patients or people with vitiligo and other skin conditions if they're disappointed by the treatment outcomes?
Well, I think from a client-centered perspective, I need to let the client versus expressing all the concern or maybe even just the frustration and anger. Not saying that I'm sitting there to be punished in that sense, but from a clinician and psychologist perspective, it's only obvious people get frustrated. We don't have a perfect system, particularly to vitiligo, including psychologists. How many of us really understand that? I don't. Honestly, I don't. It's how are we going to collaborate, understanding. I believe in human being can bridging understanding if I step down. It's not step up. It's not about I'm being the expert. I need to hear the pain, the struggle, the difficulties, and I need to learn from my clients. And from there, we're creating a platform.
I mean, one of the things we do in my practice is I take really good photos. And so when the word disappointment, what does that mean? And so we know that vitiligo is a very slow disease to repigment. Disease skin manifestation, I'm mindful of the use of that language. So I had a patient just yesterday in my practice who was like, it's not working. And I was like, okay, let's look. And because it was so widespread and patchy all over, we had like 15 photos to go through. But I took the time and I lined them up from January to today and all side by side. And you can see, okay, well, this patch is gone. This one is still here. Okay, it's not as present on the face. And I need to get them to buy in because it is a slow process. The nature of this phenomenon is such that even like the data shows, even if you've been on treatment for like 6 months or a year and you don't have any repigmentation, you might still in a year and a half. So you can't throw in the towel too quickly. And I think in our TikTok brain, Instagram era, it's like hard to kind of put up with that. It's like the opposite of instant gratification.
I think also not to just plug Vitiligo Voices, but I think it's also important to refer patients to organizations where they can be part of a community and validate their experiences.
Yeah, for sure, because that's where so many novel ideas come in. Like I was talking to a patient earlier who was telling me about a treatment in Mexico, and I was like, oh, we don't do that here. But that's part of it, is being able to understand what different people have gone through, different options. That's part of education too, for sure.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of self-exploration and have the courage. And then same thing with psychology professional. We learn from that. We don't have magic formula. I wish I have. I'm not as, I mean, okay, I'm not going there because I thought that medically there might be a miracle, but I guess there's none. And then psychologically, I think it's a very soft skill. And how am I going to listen and tuning in and learn from them? Learning from my client is one thing I learned from all this year of practice. I learn from them, I walk with them, I feel with them, and then from there we come up with some collaborative direction.
Well, just final thought. We heard about the importance of getting help of different kinds, and specifically for you, but here we have a community in Canada called Vitiligo Voices Canada. So if you're online and you should join the community, now you know where to go. With that, I would also like to thank you for your contributions to the vitiligo community and invite you to the World Vitiligo Day Order of World Vitiligo Day Canada. So thank you so much for your time. All right, now we're going to have some fun. We are going to shift to the innovation and have a rapid-fire look at 5 startups making breakthroughs in skin health, diagnostics, and patient support. We're used to startups pitching at us, but today we are here to celebrate. This is not a pitch. These are innovative companies in Canada doing innovative things, and we are here to support them and celebrate them. And this session will be moderated by Bibaswan Ghoshal, Senior Director of Technology Adoption at the Ontario Bioscience Innovation Organization. And before I pass the mic to Bibaswan, I just wanted to stress, OBIO is a phenomenal organization who supports startups and life sciences and does a lot for our community. So we truly appreciate all you do, and thank you for hosting this. Bibaswan, the stage is yours.
Good morning, everyone. It's been a pleasure to be a part of this conversation from the morning. Keith already said enough, so I'm now a little skeptical on what I should talk about. Yes, we are a not-for-profit life sciences and medtech accelerator based out of Toronto, but we address the needs for the next generation of early-stage life sciences companies and medtech companies that are coming out of Canada and help them get their products to the market so that innovation can happen and happen at a faster pace. My role is to bring new innovation to healthcare systems. I'm very happy to be a part of this stage where we are celebrating the startups that we work with, especially a shout out to Skinopathy. Now it's my turn, Keith, because Richard and Keith has done a phenomenal job, and we have supported them. But they are the kind of startups that we look forward to support and bring these kind of products to market. So without further ado, and obviously you're not here to listen to me, you're here to listen to the fantastic startups that have come up with real innovation. And these are all homegrown Canadian innovation that are impacting lives of patients on a regular basis and are looking to bring their products, commercialize their products into the market. So first, there's 5 amazing startups, as Keith mentioned. The first I will have on stage is Nishani Rajakulendra, from the Director of Clinical Operations at Edesa Biotech.
Good morning, everyone. We're very happy to be here today to help celebrate World Vitiligo Day. Edesa Biotech is a small, mid-sized company based out of Markham, Ontario, and we focus on developing anti-inflammatory therapies for unmet medical needs, including indications such as vitiligo. So our clinical stage pipeline actually focuses on immune inflammatory conditions in 2 key areas, medical dermatology and respiratory conditions. Today, I'll be focusing on our dermatology program, particularly our work in developing a treatment for moderate to severe vitiligo. This program has completed successfully phase 1 clinical trials, and we're now preparing to launch our phase 2 proof of concept study in vitiligo. Our interest in vitiligo actually dates back to the start of our company. It was really driven by a lot of very interesting work coming out from KOLs in the vitiligo space, Dr. John Harris and Dr. Terry Passeron. Their work revealed a prominent role for the chemokine CXCL10 in vitiligo, and this work really inspired us to pursue a treatment for CXCL10 and an option for vitiligo patients. These researchers showed that individuals with vitiligo often have an interferon gamma phenotype, and that they have elevated levels of CXCL10 in both their skin and in their serum. And so this really helped explain why therapies aimed at Th2 and Th17 pathways had very limited success in vitiligo patients, and why treatments such as JAK inhibitors, which acted downstream of the interferon gamma receptor, had shown a lot more promise. So at Edesa, we believe that the next step forward is to actually have a more targeted approach by intervening further downstream of the JAK-STAT pathway to disrupt a key driver in vitiligo while preserving the broader immune function of the interferon gamma pathway. So this actually brings us to why we think CXCL10 is such an attractive target. So I am going to dive a little bit more deep into the science here. So vitiligo can be divided into 2 kind of phases, the innate phase and the adaptive phase. In the innate phase, before you have appearance of visible symptoms, you do see an increased activation of natural killer cells, as well as upregulation of CXCR3B on melanocytes. So when you have interferon gamma signaling triggered by an immune event, you do have an increased production of CXCL10, which binds to CXCR3B on the melanocytes, causing melanocyte apoptosis and then antigen presentation, which really primes the immune system. And then when we move into the adaptive phase, CXCL10 actually helps form this chemotactic gradient that brings these melanocyte-specific T cells to the skin where they attack the melanocytes, leading to visible depigmentation. So persistent CXCL10 levels and T cell activity creates this pro-inflammatory environment in the skin that really prevents repigmentation and maintaining the disease. So across both stages, we really do see a role for CXCL10, and we believe that blocking this axis actually presents a really unique opportunity to intervene at multiple points in the disease progression. So to target this mechanism, we have developed EBO6. It's a fully human IgG1 monoclonal antibody that binds to CXCL10 with high affinity and specificity. To date, we have dosed 65 patients with this antibody and have seen no severe safety concerns. And we believe EBO6 really has a potential to be a first-in-class systemic biologic that directly targets a validated biomarker in vitiligo. So looking ahead and where we are as a company, our next milestone is to launch our phase 2 proof of concept study in vitiligo. We do have Health Canada approval for this study, and right now we are working on getting FDA approval for this study, and we are planning to enroll about 150 patients, with our primary endpoint being the proportion of patients achieving F-VASI 50 at about 24 weeks. We're actively working with our manufacturing partner to ensure the clinical supply is ready, and we hope to start the trial early next year. So with that, I'd like to thank you for your time and happy to take any questions.
Thank you so much. Richard, do we have any questions?
We have a couple of questions. I guess I want to point in your presentation, Nishani, you use the word intervening downstream. What did you mean by that?
So right now, when we think about treatments for vitiligo that's available, it's the inhibitors for JAK signaling. So we think that because we are targeting more upstream in the signaling pathway, you actually get more often off-site targeted effects. So if we go more specific to further downstream of the signaling pathway, we can actually maybe reduce the off-site effects of the treatment.
The next question, it seems as though you already have a fan here. Love what you're doing. Thank you for your contribution. What can we do as a community to help?
So when you hear about this trial, and if you are eligible, we do ask that you participate and spread the word that we will be recruiting patients. We are hoping to start early next year, and we are planning to have this trial run in Canada and the US. So we will be sharing with the vitiligo community once we have this trial up and running. So if you are eligible, we do ask you that you participate.
Thank you. That's it.
Thank you so much, Nishani. The next startup on the stage would be Baüne, and I have Andrea Galindo, the Chief Operating Officer from Baüne.
Which one do I use? This one? Okay. Got it. There we go. All right. Good morning, everyone. My name is Andrea Galindo. I'm the COO and co-founder of Baüne. And I'm really excited to show you and maybe switch the topic a little bit here on how we are pioneering with the human digital twin on bridging the gap on innovation between space health technology to healthcare for everyday people. So we know that our healthcare system is very reactive, fragmented, and often inaccessible. And this is our mission. We envision a future where every individual has real-time, personalized digital health model of their health that it's accessible anywhere. We're bridging the gap between innovation from a space grade, again, to the hands of the everyday person. Some of you might have seen the word human digital twin before, some might not. Some of you might have not done so. So imagine a world where everyone is continuously monitored and predicted, and you have personalized healthcare. This is our vision. It integrates psychological, physiological, and emotional health data, as well as environmental data, to provide and detect patterns early. This is why we're here. We collect data from wearables, from medical devices, and electronic health records. We put all of that together into a system that securely shares the data with the medical practitioners anywhere. Our system is capable of integrating other amazing technologies, such as Skinopathy technology, which we have collaborated in the past over a couple of years already. Now, we are already serving a wide range of applicants and users, from astronauts to athletes to people in underserved communities. But we want to go further than that. And we know that we can make an impact on vitiligo, which is often associated with autoimmune diseases, such as thyroid dysfunction, which can affect heart rate and blood pressure. Diabetes is another disease that impacts the circulation and skin health, as well as the stress response and stress factors that are often associated with heart rate, blood pressure increase, as well as a change in the respiratory. So all of that can be tracked across with our technology. Years of research have come into a spiral mode. This is the way we work. We take an approach that we continuously build for an initial vision of a human digital twin, from space to healthcare applications, to a compact solution that can be transferred and shifted across multiple spaces. We started with the collaboration and a contract with the Canadian Space Agency on the Health Beyond initiative to bring autonomous healthcare for astronauts in deep space, but also for people in remote community. We knew that we could not just develop solution for athletes or elite people, let's call it, who are astronauts and super performers, but let's take that innovation into the hands of the everyday. So we moved into an autonomous care unit, and this is an extract of what we have done at the Canadian Space Agency, and use it for the hands of the people without family doctors and chronic conditions. Right now, we're running a pilot with 1,000 patients in Montreal, where we want to support and have a preventable solution for patients, again, with chronic diseases, no family doctors, in a way to support them and maintain them outside the emergency room. Now, we have to always think, how do we allow accessibility of healthcare in remote locations? And this is our newest solution, is the REACT system, which stands for Routine Emergency Treatment and Care. And so we provide a very compacted solution with multiple medical devices and software platform that allows for accessibility, treatment, and an impact on the human digital twin. Our roadmap has grown since 2016. We have expanded across Canada. We have impact in 3 different provinces at the moment, but we know that the future of healthcare is beyond what the current deployments are. Our team specialized mostly in development, engineering, as well as key collaborations with governmental agencies, key innovators such as Skinopathy, and thank you for inviting us here today, as well as research and innovation applicants. Now, we know that now it's the time. We have a shortage of healthcare professionals. More than 6 million Canadians lack access of family doctors. And we are at a chronic state where vitiligo affects millions, not only physically, but emotionally as well. And we have to take those two things into consideration. Yet, usually the care remains very fragmented and reactive. So imagine combining real-time vital signs, skin imaging, AI, to have a proactive solution. And this is why I'm here. This is more than innovation, it's equity, accessibility, and the future of health. So happy to talk to you. I have a booth over there. Me and my belly are here today. So thank you so much for your time. Any questions, I'll appreciate them.
We have one question. What are the challenges of doing something in space versus Earth, obviously in the context of healthcare?
In the context of healthcare, you would think it's very different, but at the same time, it's very similar when it comes to connectivity being the #1 challenge, accessibility of healthcare, as well as harsh environments. So we have ultimately started designing our technology for the ultimate scientific application and adapting into the needs of the people on Earth, which is where the most of the impact will be.
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea. That was amazing. Next, we, I think, shift a little bit of gear towards pharma and pharmacy space. I'll have Faddy Morgan, COO, PharmaGuide, up on stage next.
Awesome. Well, hello, everyone, and thank you for having us at World Vitiligo Day today. My name is Faddy Morgan, and I'm the Chief Operating Officer of PharmaGuide. I'm absolutely thrilled to be here with you and have the opportunity to share how PharmaGuide, in collaboration with PharmaSmart, Skinopathy, and other key partners, are developing and using cutting-edge tools to transform access to dermatological care. PharmaGuide is a Canadian health tech company founded by pharmacists who understand the real challenges faced by the front lines of care. Our mission is simple: to make sure the right medication reaches the right person at the right time. We've always found it remarkable that you can order a pizza and have it delivered to your door in about 30 minutes, or stream a movie from your cell phone in seconds. Yet patients wait weeks, even months, to get access to a healthcare professional or have the medications that they need. That's what we set out to change. Today, over 1,000 pharmacies across Canada, including our dermatological pharmacy partners, PharmaSmart, use our tools to break down these barriers and deliver faster, safer, and more personalized care. The biggest thing that we've noticed is that systems, particularly in North America, are fragmented. So when you look at your physician system, your pharmacy system, your insurance, your lab systems, those are all fragmented silos. And by bringing those networks together, we can really start advancing care with the data that's available. So let's begin with our first tool, PharmaChat. It's our AI-powered assistant designed specifically for healthcare professionals. FoxChat delivers trusted, up-to-date clinical guidance based on drug monographs and evidence-based guidelines. At PharmaSmart, FoxChat enables the pharmacy team to quickly access accurate information, from recommending appropriate treatments for conditions such as vitiligo, to explaining potential side effects, and even generating SOAP notes or prescriber letters. This all gets done in a matter of seconds, saving healthcare professionals time to support the next patient. It's like having a virtual clinical assistant always ready, always able to support, for faster, better care. With new therapies and treatment options becoming available every day, healthcare providers are being asked more and more questions. Vitiligo care often comes with complex questions about compounding options, access, or monitoring. FoxChat reduces the pressures by acting as a real-time support system, especially valuable when patients have questions about their conditions and providers need evidence-based, fast answers. Next up is PharmaVision AI, which was developed in support of Communitech and Pfizer Canada. This tool was designed to eliminate one of the most frustrating barriers in healthcare, which is navigating coverage and cost transparency. We found that patients spend hours of time and a lot of frustration in actually determining if the prescription is going to be accessible to them. So this includes if a medication will be covered by their insurance provider and where they might be able to access it. And this is why we created PharmaVision AI. So really what it does is it streamlines the entire process. It instantly checks insurance coverage, calculates expected costs, generates pre-filled authorization forms, and even suggests covered alternatives when needed. At PharmaSmart, this technology is essential, ensuring patients begin their treatment promptly, without getting lost in the paperwork or delayed by administrative burdens. The best part is how easy and simple it is to use. Patient just needs to snap a photo of their insurance card, enter in the medication name, and the system instantly checks coverage and the anticipated costs after the insurance. If the medication isn't covered, it's able to suggest clinically appropriate alternatives and provide the exact special authorization form that's needed if it is. This is all tailored to the specific patient and their insurance, so it's customized to them instantaneously. This saves hours and, more importantly, gets patients started on their treatments faster. The last challenge that we saw is, of course, in actually getting patients the right medication. So FoxShip is our smart shipping and logistics platform, and it's built directly into the pharmacy dispensing softwares. This allows pharmacies to connect with national and regional couriers such as Purolator, FedEx, and Canada Post, and lets them compare rates and delivery times in real time. With just a few clicks, pharmacists can schedule deliveries, print labels, and track shipments, all without leaving the care workflow. It's fast, reliable, and fully integrated, removing the complexity from specialty medication shipping. For patients living with vitiligo and other skin conditions, access often depends on more than just getting a prescription. They may need compounded creams, special topicals, or biologicals, and not all pharmacies carry them. FoxShip makes it possible for partners like PharmaSmart to deliver those treatments across Canada, including to remote and underserved communities. So whether it's in rural Saskatchewan or in the heart of downtown Toronto, patients can get their medications right away, delivered safely, quickly, and with full visibility, and best of all, from the pharmacy of their choosing across the entire network. It's another way we're closing the access gap and turning AI-powered pharmacy into real-world results. So, thank you so much for your time and interest. We truly look forward to collaborating with you all to shape the future of accessible, intelligent, and patient-centered care. For more information, we encourage you to visit our website at pharmaguide.ca, or please feel free to reach out to us at info@pharmaguide.ca. Thank you.
Stay on the stage, Faddy.
Faddy, yeah, Richard will have some questions for you.
Before I give out the question, I just want to give everyone a quick reminder that anybody here, even if you're online, if you go to derm.law/WVD, or if you actually scan that QR code on the screen, you can submit your questions anonymously. You don't need to put in your name. We're getting some right now, but we thought you should all know. So the question I have for you from Slido, Faddy, is I know pharmacists now can do some low-level diagnosing in Ontario. How has that changed things for you in the last year or so?
Absolutely. It's definitely opened up the doors so that we can help and support more and more patients. but definitely I feel like there is still a learning curve, and it is wonderful to have the specialists and the access to the physicians that we have. So that's a big part of the relationship, where we're actually able to do that first step of care, identify and do an initial triage. We're able to support patients right away if it's kind of within that scope or something that we're able to support with, but also having that backing to Skinopathy and Get Skin Help goes a long way in making sure that we do have access and a quick way to get patients to dermatologists or specialists that can really make sure we have a good handle of what needs to be done.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. The next startup to come on stage is Nuvobio. So I'm Kyle Biggar, CSO, Nuvobio. Please come on stage.
Hi everyone. So I'm Kyle Biggar. I'm the Chief Scientific Officer and Scientific Co-founder at Nuvobio. We are an Ottawa-based biotech company. We focus on the AI design of peptides for skin health as well as other conditions, and so I'll tell you a little bit about that today. So we see a lot of market demand and growth for peptide-based products in the skin health and cosmetic markets. But really, the growth and the discovery of these peptides are classically quite slow. And so it takes a long time to make these peptide-based products, whether it's a cosmetic or a pharmaceutical. But traditionally, these are processes that require a little bit of knowledge around the structure and really don't give you any indication on off-target effects, right? So are there negative side effects to this drug? And so this is the bottleneck that Nuvobio really kind of honed in on and decided that this is what we were going to address. And so we focus on making AI-based tools that make the discovery of these peptide-based products a lot easier and safer. And so you may wonder, what is a peptide, right? So I'll step back a couple steps and say, well, a peptide is just a small piece of a protein that has normal jobs to do in your cell. So you may have heard of insulin, right, to regulate your blood sugar. That is a peptide. It's a peptide hormone. Or maybe you've heard of Ozempic. That is also a peptide-based drug to help manage diabetes, as well as, if it's the Wegovy version, weight loss. So to do this and to help address this bottleneck, we created a platform called Darwin AI, and it is a sequence-based peptide discovery platform. And I'll break down this figure a little bit, and we'll address the ball of yarn that's in there as well. So we decided to approach our drug design philosophy by understanding first how proteins naturally work and function in the cell, and take that information to design our drugs, making them inspired by nature, right, using the natural processes that your cells do, and in that way, making our peptides more functional and biologically relevant. Because we're sequence-based, it allows us to access the whole cell, or the whole proteome that it could exist inside of your body, and allows us to compute how safe these peptides are. So during our development process, we, on a regular basis, determine, are these peptides going to be safe? Do they have off-target side effects? And we mitigate those appropriately. So now we'll go to the big ball of yarn, and I'll guide you through what our platform does and how we make our products. And so we start with an impossibly large space, number of peptides. So you can see here it's 10 to the 30 peptides. So it's an impossibly large number of peptides that could have therapeutic potential. And then we go to our ball of yarn that really just represents all of the proteins inside of your body and how they naturally interact with each other. We take that information and we evolve our peptides to mitigate off-target side effects, but to bind specifically to our therapeutic target over many, many generations to come up with a few validated, preclinical leads. And so it's difficult to imagine how big of a number 10 to the 30 is. And so it's always kind of nice to to look at it or discuss it in a different way. So many other companies, so traditional ways that we find peptide-based therapeutics, it's kind of like, when you look at the numbers, it's kind of like trying to dig for treasure in a bucket of sand, right? You're not going to find much treasure. But what Nuvobio does is it looks at every single beach on Earth times 100 million to find our high-quality peptide hits. And that allows us to find better, more functional peptides. And so one of our lead assets is a safe selective snare inhibitor. So snare inhibitors drive vehicle fusion in the skin, affecting things like pigmentation, inflammation, and nerve signaling. So our peptides that we developed through Darwin AI work to block this without the use of neurotoxins. And so classically, the things that target snares are things that you may be familiar with, like Botox. Botox is really limited in its therapeutic application because of the cytotoxicity that it has, as well as its off-target effects, right? So it really limits its therapeutic potential. So we approached this to make something that was highly specific. And so we ran this through our pipeline. We came up with over 80 high-quality functional leads. And so you can kind of see a picture of what the snare complex naturally looks like in the cell. It's a complex of 3 different proteins. It kind of looks like a bundle of sticks. They're all sticking together. And what we're trying to do is use our peptides to block those sticks from interacting with each other so we can block vesicle fusion. So in the end, we had 80 peptides that were novelly generated by AI, that were functional, and that we actually confirmed the mechanism of action. So they actually do this. So I am the Chief Scientific Officer, so I do have to show you one data slide, so sorry for this. But I do need to show you that it does work. It's not all smoke and mirrors. So we'll start with the leftmost panel. This is an image of a structure. So this is the snare complex. And what's actually happening, you can't see it, and I don't have a laser pointer, but right in the middle, if you can kind of see the little orange squiggly line above the yellow one, that's our peptide blocking that complex from coming together. That's just a single peptide. We have over 80 of them. And so what we do is we say, hey, these bind, they look like they're working, and so we go to the lab and we say, well, do they actually follow the mechanism of action that we want them to do? So in our neuronal cells, so we've differentiated neuronal cells, we look at dopamine release as a proxy for functional snare, right? So snare has to be functional to be able to, for these cells to release dopamine. And we look at dopamine release, and you can kind of see the 3 peptides at the end. These are our first 3 that we tested in the lab, and they all have significant reduction of dopamine release. All of our peptides have no cytotoxicity. They've been designed that way, and they're effective. They're functional because we used biology to create these. And so while our technology supports multiple verticals, we do see a unique and early opportunity in advancing skin health peptides. And so this is kind of a snapshot of all of the drug programs that we have ongoing in Nuvobio. So in skin health, we have our snare inhibitors. And so these are non-toxic peptide modulators for wrinkle and pigment control. We have toll-like receptor inhibitors as well. So these are anti-inflammatory peptides for barrier repair. And we have SHP2 inhibitors. And so these target fibroblast activity and pigmentation balance. We also have programs in oncology and infectious disease, and these are partnered to be able to advance these programs in a rapid way. So we kind of strike this balance of having a platform of drug discovery, but also creating and developing our own assets. But we also provide some service work to people who are interested in peptide therapeutics. So there's a couple different ways that we work with partners and clients. And so if you are a small biotech or from a research institute and you're interested in peptide therapeutics, feel free to reach out and see what our platform can help you achieve. So that's Nuvobio. Thanks.
All right, we have a few questions. Yeah. One of them could very well be good news for you. The question is, what stage are you in terms of funding?
Oh, we are actively in our seed round.
Okay. The next question here is, what's your biggest success in terms of a medical condition or people that you've helped?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
What's your biggest success in terms of who or the medical condition you've been able to help?
Yeah, so Nuvobio really exists at the early stage of drug discovery, right? So we kind of really focus on the preclinical up to stage 1 clinical trials, and so we're not necessarily patient facing. But we do, you can't see the pillars up there, but one of them was infectious disease. And that's something that's kind of a little bit close to Nuvobio as well, because it's directly touching a very vulnerable population, and it's quite an effective therapeutic. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thanks, Kyle. And for the last startup, but not the least, got Serena Mandla, CSO and co-founder, Nova Therapeutics.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. I realize I'm standing, I think, in the way of you and lunch, so hopefully we'll keep this fun and fast. It's great to be here today. A ton of really, really excellent talks and a really lovely community. My name is Serena Mandla. I'm the CSO and co-founder of Nova Therapeutics, and we are a preclinical biotech company on a mission to transform the treatment of complex immune diseases. And complex immune diseases, or those involving your barriers, are inherently complex because of a number of different heterogeneous disease drivers. But many of the current therapeutics on the market address simply the symptoms, and what they often intervene at is that downstream inflammation, or what we call your adaptive inflammation. And this actually creates quite a big unmet need in our treatment options that are focusing on the upstream, or really focusing on what we kind of call something called atopic march, or the progression of IgE sensitization. And as a result of this current paradigm, we actually find that up to 65% of patients are non-responsive, and almost 90% of patients are actually dissatisfied with their disease. And what this actually results in is quite a very expensive drug paradigm where up to $85 billion of healthcare funds are wasted simply just helping patients find a treatment that suits them. And so here at Nova Therapeutics, we're really working to transform that treatment by thinking a little bit differently about how we treat these diseases. And so we've grown very interested in this target called the aryl hydrocarbon receptor, or AHR, because it acts as this key upstream node in innate inflammation. And what we can see here actually is that AHR is able to target and affect a number of these really critical cells that are found in our skin. But AHR historically has been very difficult to design drugs for. There hasn't been a ton of good elucidation on the structure, and this has quite limited our ability to create drugs. And historically, it's been thought that there's only one way you can activate that, and it's through what we call the canonical pathway, which causes ROS production. And obviously, we don't really want ROS. We don't want that oxidative stress. But what recent research has elucidated is that there's this whole other pathway, this non-canonical pathway, that actually has this really strong antioxidant defense. And so what we're doing at Nova Therapeutics is we've worked to really understand and elucidate this target and understand what pushes our drug down these two different signaling pathways so that we can really, really nicely dose and have a targeted effect. And so I'll spend a little bit of time talking about our lead asset, NO-104, which is a topical for atopic dermatitis at the moment. And so what we see with NO-104, our development candidate, is that we're really able to have a game-changing weekly administration by targeting the AHR receptor and through different formulation effects. And by having weekly administration, we can have quite a profound impact on patients' lives who no longer have to think about applying therapeutics daily. And by targeting AHR, we do see the simultaneous Th2 and barrier resolution, so really two key disease drivers in many of these inflammatory barrier diseases, and this is what we believe will bring disease modification potential. And so as was said before, I am the CSO, so we'll spend a little bit of time talking about science. And so with AHR, we've really focused on safety of this target, right? We want to make sure that we don't have this bad and deleterious pathway activation. And so here what we can see is we actually have no activation of an enzyme called CYP1A1, which is known to drive that oxidative response, unlike historical compounds where it's always been thought that if you're activating AHR, you're going to have activity of that. So we've actually been able to untie those two responses. And what this means is that we can have this non-canonical pathway activation through something called NRF2, which provides us a cytoprotective response. We have less production of ROS, or reactive oxygen species, and we can protect against those that cause it. And I want to highlight and emphasize this because this is really where we see the potential for an application like vitiligo, which we know is driven through oxidative stress. And when we look with atopic dermatitis, we see that we have this deep remission of Th2 inflammatory and disease modification biomarkers. And so here we've done head-to-head studies against tapinarof, one of our competitors, and we've looked at historical data for dupilumab, and we really see this exciting superiority when we look at key Th2 resolution markers like IL-4 and IL-13, as well as disease modification markers like TARC and IgE. And so this actually positions us quite strongly as we're the only therapeutic in development that has this core Th2 resolution as strong as Dupi, while also providing this barrier restoration. And on top of that, we're really targeting this once-a-week application, which would be a game changer in the field. And so where are we? Where are we going? Currently, we've completed our preclinical studies for NOA-104, our development candidate, and right now we're looking to enter IND studies. So we're targeting a first-in-human for atopic dermatitis by next year, and are certainly doing a ton of different work on some undisclosed targets and undisclosed diseases. And then we're also expanding into other non-derm diseases, but that is not for this room. And obviously it takes a village, so you've seen me here today, but I'm very grateful to be supported by our team. We have, I think, cumulatively across our C-suite, over 80 years of experience. Carla Spina, CEO and co-founder, and our acting Chief Business Officer, Troy Dale, with many years of experience in big pharma, and Kathy Cordy, who brings experience as a dual board-certified pediatric and gastroenterologist. And more recently, actually, one thing we're really excited to just say is our recent collaboration with Johns Hopkins University has received an NEA, or a National Eczema Association grant, and so we're excited to really see this validation in the work that we're doing. And so that kind of summarizes us. I really invite anyone that is motivated and is passionate to transform this treatment. You know, we really are kind of tired of seeing many patients that are just not happy with the therapeutics coming out. So if anyone is doing preclinical work in vitiligo, or if anyone wants to just kind of share their story with us, again, this is what kind of keeps us going day after day. So thank you, everyone.
Yeah, we have one question here. You said that oxidative stress is bad or something like that for vitiligo. What is oxidative stress?
Yeah, so the oxidative stress, there's a number of different ways that it can be caused, but I think in the context, and again, if anyone would like to correct me, absolutely do. I'm still new to the vitiligo space, still learning, but we do know that under different stressors and conditions, your cells can produce something called reactive oxygen species. And this essentially can build up, and it can cause DNA damage for one, but it can also have a number of downstream deleterious effects. So it's not the only mechanism behind vitiligo. It is one of them, and this is obviously what makes the disease so complex. But this is kind of one area where we really see maybe our ability to shine, or our ability to maybe one day transition into this disease state.
We have a second question as well. Why choose in vitro?
In vitro?
I'm not a doctor, so I don't understand. I'm just reading about. So the question is, why choose in vitro?
Yeah, so a lot of our testing starts in vitro. So what in vitro means is it's in a dish, in a lab, working with cells. So we choose to work with human cells. Obviously, we are all humans, so we want to make sure there's some sort of relevancy there. And once we've established some safety parameters, we do move into what's called in vivo or animal studies. Obviously, we're not mice, so it's not a perfect model, but we do want to work and make sure that we're having some level of safety and comfortability with these new therapeutics before we eventually move to humans. So hopefully that answers the question. If I didn't, please come find me.
Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, everyone.
So thank you, everyone, for supporting the startups. Now, I'll finish off by saying, as a community, what can we do to support these startups better? I think, first of all, every startup at every phase of their journey is looking for funding. You might not be the right person, but if you know someone who might be interested in funding these startups, connecting them with foundations, with groups that actually can fund some of these startups, that's great. But most of all startups in the ecosystem needs support from the community as well. So share the stories here, follow them on LinkedIn, follow them on their socials, share their stories with people you know so that there's more awareness of these startups and these innovative solutions in the common people. So thank you so much. It's been a pleasure hosting all of these startups, and I think I'll hand it over to Keith for any announcements, and see you at lunch. Thank you.
Can we just one more time, acknowledge that building startups and building companies are not easy, and it's often thankless, it's costly. I can tell you most of us don't sleep, right? And it's stressful, and your support goes a long way. But also at the same time, look at how much Canadian innovation we have right here. Can we give one more round of applause to these startups, please? You might see a pattern here, but I would like to welcome you back on stage so that we can welcome you into the Order of Vitiligo Canada Day, please.
Yes, Kyle, Serena, Faddy, please come on stage.
Thank you very much, sir. Let's take a picture together.
Those are very expensive brains on the stage right now.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. All righty. I think you heard earlier. That concludes our morning program. Box lunches are now available right outside near the bridge. Please take this time to connect. Go and talk to some of these startups. Go and meet our sponsors. Go check out the booths. Go play some cornhole. And we'll resume right here at 1 p.m. with the start of our abstract competition. Thank you and enjoy.